Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. There is a lot we're going to say this morning in this opening ceremony, but before we start with anything else, we just want to take a moment to, first of all, remember our comrades from Costa Links that are not here with us in their bodies, but are here with us in spirits. And we will do a prayer, and then we start with the program. So, Michelle, please come in.
Carmen actually said that now. So as Carmen said, many of our comrades that started this journey with us are no longer here. And had they been alive, they would have been in this room with us. Some of them were very instrumental when the Coastal Links movement was started. Some of them were on that first train that left the Cape Town platform and went to Johannesburg for the World Summit on Sustainable Development, and have journeyed with us for so many years and fought this fight for so many years, and now they are not here. So we want to celebrate them. We want to honor their commitment and their dedication, and we would like you to just stand with us for a few minutes as we give honor to them. Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Shakes Mahiko, our board member, to come and light a candle for us. This candle is going to burn for the duration of the hearings in honor of our colleagues who are not with us, our comrades who are not with us right now. Seated. Thank you. So we've asked the choir to do our prayer song. So it's the custom for Coastal Links to always open up all their meetings and all the events with the prayer. So thank you very much for agreeing to do the prayer song for us.
everyone again. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and special thanks to the Belgian Youth Choir who just joined us this morning to open the tribunal. And indeed, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Mr. Bongo, the chairperson of Masifundise, to declare the Fishers People Tribunal open. For those that haven't met me before, my name is Carmen Mannarino. I'm the program manager at Masifundise, and I will be the MC for the next 3 days, try to guide us through all the cases. We will go through a trip around the country. It's a trip that is going to be painful in many ways because we're going to have to speak about all the human rights violations the fishing communities are still facing. But I hope there is also a trip that is about celebrating the struggles of fishers, the strength the fishing communities have shown in the past 20 years, especially in demanding their rights, in fighting for their rights. And I think that it is also important that we take this moment to celebrate the culture of fishing communities as we come together. Indeed, 21 years ago, it was August 2003, we chose this venue because in this exact venue, 21 years ago, for the first time, fishing communities came together in the fishing human rights hearing. That was the first time that I think in a very conscious way, the struggle of fishers was framed as a struggle for human rights. And this is why we chose this venue. We decided we needed to come back here to assess where we are with this struggle. What are the violations that we still facing? What are the key issues that we need to think about collectively as fishers movements to take forward and see these rights that we want on paper becoming material rights, becoming the reality for us as fishing communities. I do want to welcome all of us, all of you, in fact, the fishing representative here, the fishers that are here in the room, our civil society partners, our research partners, legal representation partners, and importantly, I also want to welcome our jury, the members of the jury that will be helping us to think through the cases that will be presented in front of the tribunal and will help us to look at the future in thinking how do we actually move forward with this struggle. We'll do more detailed introduction later on. But yes, I think that it's also important to remember how we got here. And indeed, another key element, a key moment of this struggle was in 2005. Fishers, after the human rights hearings, after continuing to organize themselves as coastal links, they took the decision that it was time to go to court, to the Equality Court, to engage with government in saying, you have to recognize our rights, our right to equality, our right to livelihood, our right to food. And the current legislative system framework is not doing that. So from there, we fought and wondered the idea or the need for a small-scale fishery policy to be developed. We developed that policy. Many of you in this room were part of that process. And now, 20 years down the line, we are still seeing the rights not being materialized as such. So this is why we called for this tribunal. We thought it was time for us to come back to the drawing board and assess what has happened in the last 20 years. What rights did we win? What rights are we still not winning? And how do we take the next steps? So, yes, despite many court victories, we're still facing many challenges, and this is why we thought that a people's tribunal, something that is outside the judicial courts that we have used many times, was needed, because sometimes even the law doesn't go far enough to realize our rights, and this is why we are coming together. In terms of this tribunal, what we want to do is to assess, indeed, where we are, we wanted to also almost open a community review of this process and see how do we move forward. And importantly, indeed, we are having the hearings today. In October, we're going to have our Fishes People Conference, because the idea is that we are not here just to criticize, to say, oh, these are all the things that were done wrong. We are also here to propose solutions, as we have done for the past 20 years as Fishes Movements. We want to look at our vision moving forward, a vision that is about food sovereignty, climate justice, environmental justice, and social justice. And we hope that all our partners that are here, especially from outside the fishing sector, our land comrades, our climate justice comrades, the working class, really. We are trying to see how do we make a strong connection between working people, because the fights that are in front of us, we cannot win if we are separated, if we are divided. We must unite and face those together. So I also welcome all our civil society partners, grassroots movements partners from the land sectors and other sectors that have joined us today. So yes, this is what these 3 days are all going to be about. But now what I do want to say is, let's have a quick introduction. We cannot go through each one of us. It's going to take very long to do that, but I just want to make visible who is in the room. I want to ask our fishers from the Northern Cape and the Western Cape to please stand up. And now our fishers representative from the Eastern Cape. Please stand up. Fishers from KZN Coastal, please also stand up. And last but not least, I want to ask all our fishers from inland fishing communities, whether it's Jozini, Van der Kloof, or Garib, to also please stand up. I also want to quickly just introduce the jury that is here with us. They have kindly agreed to come here and play this role, take time from their very busy schedules to help us think through this process and to forge the path forward in terms of how do we take this fight for human rights in the context of fishing. So I just want to say hello to Andy Johnston. Andy, many of you know Andy very well, because Andy is a fishers activist that has been active in the sector for, I don't know, many decades, I should say. So thank you, Andy, for being here with us. And then I want to welcome Milan Kothari. Milan Kothari is from India. Milan is a long-time activist and scholar who has worked in the context of human rights, socioeconomic rights, and especially housing rights. He's also been the UN Special Rapporteur for the right to housing between 2000 and 2008, if I'm correct. Thank you for taking the time and being here, Milan. Next, I want to introduce you to Makoma Lekalakala, a legend of the environmental rights and environmental justice movement here in South Africa. Makoma needs no introduction for many of us, but she is the director of EarthLife Africa, and she has been a long-time activist, especially in the sector of environmental justice, and in 2018 she won the Goldman Environmental Prize that recognized the leadership that she provided in the struggle against nuclear power in the context of South Africa. So thank you, Makoma, for being here. Next, I want to introduce Professor Ben Cassin. Professor Ben Cassin, please. Professor Ben has been is the founder of PLUS. He founded PLUS, many of you know PLUS, the Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies. We, as fishing communities, we have worked together with PLUS for many years through the leadership of Moniba Isaacs. Ben is an expert in the context of land rights and especially the connection between power and governance, and I think in the last few years he's showed some interest for the ocean as well. So we asked him to come and help us use that interest to think about also the connections that we have between land issues and fishing rights issues, because those two are not really separated. So thank you, Ben. Last but not least for now, I do want to introduce Professor Uche Ofodile from Nigeria. Professor Uche is a professor at the University of Arkansas in the United States. She is an internationally recognized law expert, especially in the context of law and business, but also in the context of food. Importantly, she's here also because of her recent appointment as a UN expert for the implementation of the UN Declaration for the Rights of Peasants and Other People Living in Rural Areas. She is the African expert for the working group working on these issues and working on the implementation of UNDROP, that's how it's called in short, but it's the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Peasants and Other People Living in Rural Areas, which includes fishers. So indeed, we asked her to join us because we thought it was important with their new mandate to really learn about the fisher struggles and the human rights issues in relation to fishing, because yes, there is a lot of connection to land and peasants, but there is also their own specificity. So we are very grateful that she made the time to come here all the way from the United States to hear your stories and to help us thinking through the future. We have another jury member who unfortunately was delayed with his flights. His name is Gianni Tognoni. He is the General Secretary of the Permanent People Tribunal. So this People Tribunal that we are doing here is not that we invented it from scratch, as Masifundis and Costa Links. We are learning from a long time experience with people taking the stage and saying, we must talk about our rights. Gianni was a lead figure in all of this since the 70s, really, and he's going to join us from this afternoon due to the flight delay, and we will introduce him when he comes. So then also, before we move to our keynote speech, I just want to also acknowledge and thank Masifundis board for giving us leadership and supporting Masifundis and Costa Links in taking forward this Fishers People's Tribunal. And in terms of board representation, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Sheikh that is here in front. Thank you, Sheikhs. Our treasurer. And also Professor Moniba Isaac. Finally, I just also want to acknowledge the steering committee that has supported us in developing this Fishers People's Tribunal. And together with Moniba, I want to say thank you to Mersha Andrew from TCOE. And also to Wilmeen Wicombo from the Resources Center. And now I do want to ask Wilmeen to come up to introduce our keynote speech.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see you. It's my honor to introduce Jeff Butlinder to you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. As a young attorney in Johannesburg, he co-founded the Legal Resources Center with Arthur Chaskelson, who would later become our first Chief Justice, and Felicity Kentridge in 1979. The LRC then pursued legal challenges against the apartheid state. They were so successful at undermining that state that he was a target of the security police and once labeled the second most dangerous person in South Africa by the apartheid government. My dad was very proud of that when I joined the LRC. After the Constitution was adopted, he brought most of the cases that still define South Africa's constitutional litigation. Makwanyana, Grootboom, Treatment Action Campaign, all while at the LRC. President Nelson Mandela appointed him the first Director General of Land Affairs of the democratic government. And since 2005, he's been an advocate, taking silk in 2009, where he continues to lead some of the most important cases in our courts today. I can say that Jeff is the lawyer that all lawyers want to be. We are very honored to have him here. Thank you, Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Philmin, for those very excessively generous remarks. I'm going to be brief because you've got important work to do here, and it's more important than listening to me. I want to say something about the Constitution and about the right to fish. Section 27(1)(b) of the Constitution says the following. It says, everyone has the right to have access to sufficient food. And then section 27(1)(c) of the Constitution says that the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of the rights. So the state has an obligation to advance the right to food. And in our context in South Africa, one of the most important aspects of the right to food is the right to fish. When we think of these rights, we usually think of rights, social and economic rights, food, water, housing. We often think, well, that means that the state must provide it, must provide the food, must provide the water, must provide the education, must provide the health services, and so on. And that's partly true, but there's always a problem when we think about the state providing, because the Constitution says it must provide subject to available resources. It can only do what it can do. Competing rights. If you spend money on food, you can't spend that much. There's less money to spend on water. If you spend on water, there's less money to spend on health services. And so there are many demands on the resources of the state. And when we talk about these social and economic rights, the obvious question is always, who's first? Because there are many people who have needs. And who must the state provide housing to first? Who are the first people in the queue for the right to water? And also, how much must each person be provided? Because those are very hard questions. But we often forget that these rights are not just about the duty of the state to provide the rights. The Constitution also says that the state must respect the rights and it must protect the rights. The state has to respect the right to food and it has to protect the right to food. And what that means is that if people are able to obtain food for themselves, then the state should not do things that prevent them from doing so. Respecting the right to food and protecting the right to food means that when people are able to obtain food through their own efforts, the state shouldn't intervene and stop them doing so. And that is obviously very important to fishing people, because they say, and you'll hear them saying in the next 3 days, I'm sorry I won't be with you, they'll say, we are able to provide food for ourselves without any help from the state or with only limited help. And what the state must do is not prevent us from providing food for ourselves, for our families, and for the people to whom we sell fish if we sell it. And so what we have to say to the state is the constitutional right of access to food means that there should be no laws that make it unlawful for people to fish to provide food for themselves. And where there are laws, the laws should make it possible for people to exercise their right to fish and to provide food for themselves. On the other hand, this law should not make it possible for large companies to get fishing allocations which take all the fish for themselves. This is what protecting and respecting the right to food means. It means respecting the right of those who can help themselves if the state doesn't get in their way and give the fish to somebody else. And so that's a very relevant issue, of course, in South Africa, I don't have to tell you. And at a time like this, when we have much unemployment, we have much poverty, and we've got much hunger, the last thing the state should be doing is getting in the way of people who are able to provide food for themselves through their own efforts and their own hard work. The state shouldn't only provide social grants and provide food parcels and so on to those who have need. That's very important. But the state shouldn't get in the way of the people who are able to provide for themselves and stop them from getting access to food. And so, as I see it, that is a major demand for fishing people and their organizations. They don't ask government for a gift. They don't ask government for a handout. They say, just don't get in our way when we want to fish for ourselves and for our families and for our people. And you would think that ought to be an elementary demand which everyone ought to recognize and to respect. It's a demand that the state must respect and promote the right of access to food, the right of people to help themselves. At its heart, then, so the right to fish. I also used to do some work on fishing rights at one stage. I was involved in some litigation as a lawyer about fishing rights. And when I never really thought about it properly when I did that work. The right to fish is really part of a constitutional right. It's guaranteed by our constitution. And how do we fight for our rights? We fight for our rights through organization and mobilization, which all of you in this room are doing. We fight for it through advocacy, for arguing the case, for going to government, for going to other people and saying these rights must be respected. And we do it through litigation by going to the courts to do it. The courts can be helpful, but the courts are the last resort, and the courts aren't really the best rights, the best place in the end. These rights have to be fought for and won by people who take them seriously, like all our other rights. The courts are important, but the courts are the last resort. So I want to wish you well in this very interesting meeting. When I was sent the program by Carmen, I thought, oh, well, I want to attend that session. Oh, no, but I'd also like to attend that session. No, but what about that one? I can't miss that one. Unfortunately, I can't attend any of them. But I wish you well. I congratulate you on being together, and I'm sure at the end, 3 days from now, you will be strengthened in your knowledge and your ability and your courage and your determination to fight for the right for food. Thank you very much.
Jeff, thank you so much for your words and really highlighting what I think that in many ways, oftentimes when we engage in advocacy, we see that is missing, that the right to food should be the starting point. It should be about how do we emphasize and how do we allow for that right to food to realize themselves, which is making fishers able to do what they know how to do, which is fishing. And oftentimes we see that when it comes to the governance of the ocean and inland waters as well, that is almost seen as the last item on the agenda. You know, conservation is important. This is what conservation is important to allow that fishing is happening in the future. Economic development is also important, But what does economic development mean if we then have people on the ground that cannot even put food on the table? Our fishing communities are among those that have the highest level of malnutrition, the highest level of poverty. And I think that's what you really emphasized, and you're spot on, is let's start from allowing people to realize the constitutional rights to have food. And then everything else can come as a result of that. So thank you so much for making time and being here with us. And I know that you do need to leave soon for other commitments, but thanks for making the time. So what I want to do now, before we move to the big items on the agenda, is indeed to just run through the agenda so that we have a sense of what the next few days are going to look like. So this afternoon, we're going to start presenting the case that we are calling the broken promises of the small-scale fishery policy. This is, we wanted to put this case first because we believe that this first case is also going to really give a framework and shape the rest of the hearings. This is a case that is going to look at what went wrong in the implementation of the small-scale fishery policy that we fought for, that we wrote as small-scale fishers, that had a lot of these important values that we have spoken about, was about right to food, food security, local economic development, gender equality, co-management. What has happened there? We want to unpack that. That's what we're going to spend the rest of the afternoon on. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start looking at the other side of our fishing communities, which is the inland fishers. The inland fishers, the people that are fishing in dams, in rivers, and we're going to look at the case of Garip Dam, where we are seeing a big issue in terms of accessing. So again, we go back to what Jeff was saying. We don't even, in the inland waters, many don't even have access. They don't even exist in terms of the legal framework. So we're going to look at the case of Garip as an example of that. I should say now, actually, I should have said this earlier. When we look at the cases that we're presenting as part of the tribunal, it was very challenging to get to the point where we have 6 cases, because each case, each of the communities that we work with, each community that are organized under Coastal Links, they will have so many stories about how their rights were violated, how they have challenges that are impacting on their day-to-day life and their ability to put food on the table. But so the cases that we chose, and we chose them together through national meetings and a lot of engagements with Coastal Links, we believe that they are really helping us to crystallize these issues that we see in many different areas, but they tell the story that is the story of many. So I just wanted to highlight that. So going back to the cases in the agenda, tomorrow also we're going to look at the case of Isimangaliso, the World Heritage Site in the northern KwaZulu-Natal, and the violence of what we called conservation fortress. So we're going to look at how conservation is resulting in violence, in different kinds of violence on fishing communities, both as collective communities and as individuals. And then in the afternoon, we're also going to look at, connected to conservation, but with a focus on the lack of realization of customary rights. We're going to look at the case of Dwesa Trebe in the Eastern Cape, and especially indeed how the lack of realization, the lack of real recognition of customary rights is leading to further human rights violations. That's tomorrow's program. At the end of tomorrow, we're also going to have what we're calling a community session. The jury will have the recess time, and in the meantime, we will open up the space to have some reflection, collective reflections on what we heard throughout the days. On Wednesday now, on the last day, we are moving from the conservation and the east coast of South Africa to the west coast. We're going to look at the West Coast, and we're going to look at what we've been calling the West Coast of extraction. This case is going to look at what's happening in the Western Cape and Northern Cape, in particular, when it comes to economic extractive developments that are meant to feed our GDP, but in reality, they are resulting in a lot of concerns and indeed grievances and violations of the rights of coastal communities, because when we look at the West Coast, between mining, oil and gas, green hydrogen, as of lately, we're starting to ask ourselves, where is the space for fishers on the coastline? And then lastly, indeed, connected to the extraction issue, we're taking more oil and gas out of the ocean, out of the land, but at the same time, we live in the context of climate change. The climate disaster is in front of us, it's undeniable. And indeed, we wanted to make a strong connection to what's happening in terms of climate change, and importantly also how it's impacting fishing communities, and especially women in fishing communities. And to do so, we are going to look at the case of South KwaZulu-Natal, where in 2022, the floods that we all know happened in Durban and in that area, how those impacted mussel harvesters in KwaZulu-Natal. So, and then we're gonna finish with some time for the jury also to share the reflection, to engage, and that's the program. Now, for each of these cases, the way we're going to do this is we're going to start the hearing for the case by reading by having the legal team presenting the charge sheet. And then we're going to hear testimonies from the fishers, from the representatives of the communities themselves. We will then open the space for the jury to ask questions, make comments. And I should say, when the jury is going to ask questions and comments, they will sort of direct them to the testimony, the people that are giving the witnesses, I should say. But we also do have a group of experts that is sitting here in the room. Mostly on the back, I should say. Jackie Sunde from UCT, Mer Soman from UCT, Moniba Isaacs from PLAS, and the research teams who have been also instrumental in supporting Masifundisa and Coastal Links and developing the cases reports that have been already shared with the jury and that the jury has engaged on. And so if there is any technical question that's going to come up, that's also where the jury, the expert group is going to support us. But importantly, when it comes to the fishers, this process is for you to use your own voice and to speak to the impact that these developments are having on your life and on your rights. So then after we do the questioning time, let's say with the jury, we will open up the floor. So rest assured, we're not only going to hear from the fishers that are in the front giving the testimonies, we will also open for all of you to engage with the issues. You will be able to either make a connection to something that is happening in your own community and speak to that, or to add more on what has been said in the testimonies. So this is a moment where we also hoping to hear from many of you, although in a shorter time, just to make sure that indeed we are able to cover all of it in the next few days. And yes, and then in closing, we will hear some final remarks from the jury, but also from some final remarks from Coastal Links. So we will ask the leadership of the 4 provinces and from mainland to give us some final remarks until we meet again for the Fishers Conference in October. So that's what is going to happen today and the next couple of days. Before we break for lunch and then we start with the cases, I do want to ask Michelle to come forward. You know, oftentimes the thank yous part comes at the end, But I do think that there is a lot of work that has gone through into making this tribunal happening. So we just wanted to take a moment to also to share some thank yous. So, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Carmen. So we are very excited, as I'm sure you know. But this has not happened overnight. This has been thought through for years. And so there are many people who have been instrumental in pulling this together, and we just want to take this moment now to show appreciation for that. So firstly, I would like to start by extending a heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Nasir Jaffer, our former director, for his role that he played in helping us to conceptualize this program. Even though he's not with us today, we want to say that we appreciate his effort. And we deeply value that. Then also our gratitude goes to our Board of Trustees for their leadership and their support. Muniba and Shakes is with us now. Other board members will join us during the 3 days. Apologies from Mr. Bongo, our chairperson, who is not feeling the greatest. He's asked me to please convey his apologies and well wishes for the tribunal. Then we also want to thank the steering committee. Carmen mentioned all the names. I'm not going to go through all the names again, but just to say thank you very much for your invaluable guidance and the support that you've showed throughout the preparation process, and also just with your presence here and the part that you will play here. We really appreciate that. A special thanks to our funding partners. Obviously, without the support, this could not have happened, so we are very grateful to them. To the members of the jury, you've heard Liz, Carmen say that some of them have traveled from very far. And we know that you have busy lives and you have your own organizations that you are running. So we are very grateful, and we appreciate the fact that you took the time out to bring your expertise and your participation to our process here in South Africa. So thank you very much for that. Then also to Jeff Butlin, for making space in your very busy program, and thank you for the words of encouragement. You know, we are all about, it has to start from the bottom up. So thank you for just echoing that again so clearly to us today. We do appreciate you being with us. To the LRC, the Legal Resources Center, especially to Wilmeen and Sadia, along with the candidates that you've brought. So there's some candidates sitting along the side here. They are taking notes. Thank you so much for all the support that you have given us through this process. We really do appreciate it. Then we also have our global fisher movement, particularly the World Forum for Fisher People. And we particularly want to thank the General Secretary, Herman Kumaru, and express our gratitude for the support that they have shown us. Then there's also some other international partners. We want to thank the PAR, the Participatory Action Research Coalition, for their support. So this tribunal obviously is not the first time it's happening. It has happened in Asia and Latin America, and so the experience there has come to us, and the support has come to us, and it has really inspired us. So we really want to thank that team for all their support as well. Then the choir that was here earlier on, I think they really got us in the groove. Special thanks to them for coming to also just share their talent with us, and I think they did an excellent job. And then to our partner organizations, our colleagues in the field, those who are in support of our struggle, whether it is through land or through climate or environmental work that you do, we really do, we do appreciate your participation here today and your attendance, and we look forward to future collaborations with you. Then we have Barry. He's not here right now, but we actually have a photo exhibition. Do take some time during the program just to view some of the photographs at the back. And in the foyer, Barry is a photographer that also has a keen interest in small-scale fishing, and he's visited many of the towns, and taken some beautiful pictures, you know, of the fishers. And then I am almost done, but I want to thank the Masifundisi staff. So I'm going to ask those of you who are in the room to either just stand, if you don't mind. If you're in the room, we have some staff downstairs, but I want you to please stand. And I often say that we are a small team, but we make big waves. And so there are only 12 of us. And we work along the coastline and we work in inland fishing. And this group of people have had a particularly challenging year. And I think that each of them have gone beyond normal working hours and have gone the extra mile to ensure that we are here today. So I want to take this moment to really say thank you very much. I know we don't do that often enough because we are so busy. But thank you very much for the commitment and your loyalty, to the cause, and for putting in that extra time. We really want to say that we appreciate it. So we actually brought in extra support now. We brought in Jono left Massif and DC, went to Zim, and we heard that he was coming back for a short trip, and we extended his trip and asked him to help us. So Jono, thank you very much. Also to Jackie. Jackie's in the room. Jackie, do you mind just standing? Jackie also came in and really helped us pull the writing together and the cases together. So Jackie, thank you very much for that. And then I want to say a special thank you to Carmen. Carmen has put in a lot of effort in keeping us all on our toes and making sure that we reached this point today. So Carmen, your efforts. Thank you. You guys can sit down now. And then I think last but not least, we would not have been here today if it were not for the fishers, for the fishing communities. To you guys who have told your stories over and over and over again. And you were prepared to once again come onto this platform and to make your stories heard. We want to say to you, thank you very much. Thank you for the role that you have played in conceptualizing the themes. Like Carmen said, there was so much. We could keep you here for months. But we only had 3 days, and we had to choose 6 themes. And you walked this journey with us. So thank you very much. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you to the people on the wall, whose names are on the wall, for their commitment. And we can only just endeavor to make good of this process. So thank you very much to the small-scale fishing communities of South Africa. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thanks to you, Michelle. Michelle has dedicated basically the past 19 years of her life to this struggle. And let me tell you, without her, this room wouldn't look like this. It will be much more not well dressed up. And she has put a lot of effort in making sure that this could happen. So thanks to you and to the operation team. Before we close the sessions, I actually forgot, and I shouldn't have. Thanks, Jordan, for reminding me. We also have some messages of well wishes coming to us from all over the world, really, to support and give good fortune to this tribunal, I think. So this is messages from people that couldn't be in the room, but still felt that it was important to send us a message to open this tribunal. So we will play that video now.
Comrades, it's my great pleasure to send you this message from the Secretariat from World Forum of Fisher People in Sri Lanka. Today, as the small-scale fishers, we are on the crossroads. Why? Because the blue paradigms, the blue regimes, coming from food and agriculture organizations, supported by International Financial Institute, devastate our fishing communities, dispossess our resources, destroy natural environment, the ecology, ecosystems, and also, because of that, displace our communities all over the world. So it is timely that Masifundise and also the coastal links, they organize this People's Tribunal, which is really highlight the issues of the people, issues of the fisher communities, which coming from the blue economy, blue transformation regime. And also it analyzed how it happened, why it happened, and who are the culprits behind it, and also how the corporates involved in that. So this is a real important matter to focus attention whole world, because all over the world the small scale fishers are really affecting with this blue regime. And we see in Asia, Pacific region, and also in Brazil, in Latin American countries, and also in South Africa. So you people are having very strong study about the situation. So this is really a good opportunity to advocate what FAO is saying is not correct, and what we want to say, the small scale fishers and their rights should be ensured, and their dignity should be ensured, and their ecosystems, their traditional food systems should be assured and protected through this process. So I hope that the tribunal of Masifundisi is a great opportunity to the small scale fishing communities in South Africa to bring all these forward and use as advocacy tool, advocacy instrument for go forward, and to develop a people-centered fisheries policy in South Africa. So, comrades, accept my great pleasure and greetings from Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Esteemed fisher peoples, friends of SSF, everyone, I bid you greetings. My name is Nadine Nemhard, and I represent the Caribbean Network of Fisher Organizations, as well as the World Forum of Fisher Peoples. Like the spine supports your body, so too does small-scale fisher peoples support coastal communities. Movements like the World Forum of Fisher Peoples, as well as other movements, have been advocating for the rights of small-scale fishers. They have been advocating for your fair treatment and sustainable practices, and have been doing so through various methods, such as public campaigns, legal challenges, and even direct engagement with policymakers. Even this tribunal is one methodology used by small-scale fishers to advocate for their rights. So I want to thank the members of WFFP for conducting these tribunals. And it is so fitting because 10 years ago, July 2014, was the endorsement of what we call the SSF guidelines. And now we have passed 10 years since that endorsement, and it is crucial to look at where we are at in the fishing industry. We have many challenges then, and we still have challenges today. Challenges like modernization of the fishing industry, finalization of the fishing industry. These actions have implications on us small-scale fishers because it sideline traditional fishers, it sideline traditional methods of fishing, it sideline traditional knowledge in the fishing industry. We also have climate impacts. I am from the Caribbean. We just faced a Hurricane Beryl. And for example, in Barbados, 200 fishing vessels were damaged, 20 sunk. Reports indicate over 60 persons died because of Beryl in this region. So we have still these issues. We have issues of false solutions. Example being that of industrialized aquaculture, that is a solution for overfishing. So we have all these things that we are battling with. So it is very suitable for Masifundisi to conduct these tribunals, to expose all the harms that are affecting fisher people in South Africa. So I want to say, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. And these are the words of Mr. Frederick Douglass. The Fisher People's Tribunal, it is not intended to be one time. It will be an ongoing event for the advocating of fishing communities' rights. It aims to create a sustained dialogue around issues such as environmental justice, economic equity, social rights, all of these related to fisheries management. So I want to say thank you for this opportunity to greet you, and I wish the WFFP member in South Africa a successful tribunal.
Dear friends, allies, and stewards of our oceans, you meet at a time when our oceans are under crisis and stress around the world. Already in 2014, Times Magazine, not the most environmentally friendly or left-wing or liberal magazine, suggested that if we continue on the path we are on and ignore the impact of climate change, our oceans could be dead in a few decades because of the triple whammy of overfishing by big corporate entities, the dumping of toxics including oil spills, and ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is as a result of more and more carbon emissions, and our forests are being depleted, so there is reduced capacity to absorb that carbon on land, and more emissions and carbon ends up in our oceans. Yet more than 1.5 billion people around the world depend on our oceans as their primary source of protein. And in many cases, this is provided and sourced by small-scale fisher communities around the world. I therefore enthusiastically offer my strong support and solidarity to the Fisher People Tribunal Initiative, a powerful beacon of hope and justice led by Masifundise and its partners. For over 20 years, Masifundise has championed the rights of rural small-scale fishing communities. The Fisher People's Tribunal comes at a pivotal juncture in our shared struggle for social, economic, and environmental justice. Post-apartheid South Africa sought to redress historical inequalities through the Marine Living Resources Act of 1998. However, the act marginalized small-scale fishers by favoring individual commercial rights over communal needs. This systemic oversight threatened the livelihoods and cultural heritage of countless small-scale fishing communities. The promulgation of the small-scale fisheries policy in 2012 was a significant victory, representing a shift towards collective rights and community empowerment. Despite this, challenges persist, including inadequate regulation, implementation, ocean grabbing by large-scale projects, and climate change impacts. The Fisher People Tribunal aims to document and expose these injustices, amplify fisher community voices, and develop campaigns for food sovereignty and climate justice. It will involve testimonies from community members, experts, and civil society, culminating in a verdict to guide future advocacy and organizing. People must recognize that the fight for fisher community rights is intrinsically linked to the broader struggle for climate justice and sustainability. These communities are frontline defenders of our oceans and crucial actors in combating climate change. I urge all stakeholders, community members, civil society, government officials, and international allies to engage wholeheartedly with the tribunal. Let us ensure that the gathered testimonies and evidence catalyze substantial change, guiding us towards policies reflecting equity, sustainability, and justice. Together, let us build alliances, strengthen mobilization, and craft a future where rights and livelihoods of all fisher folk are honored and protected. United in purpose and action, we can forge a path toward a more just and equitable world. In this terrible moment of history that we find ourselves in, with the threat of climate change becoming more and more terrifying, we have to say at this moment of history that we find ourselves in, pessimism is a luxury we simply cannot afford. And the pessimism that emerges from our analysis, our observations, our lived experiences can, must, and should be overcome by the optimism of our thought, our action, and our courage. I wish you a successful tribunal and send very, very warm words of solidarity and urge you to remember always that the struggle for justice is a marathon and not a sprint. There will be days when we will have setbacks. I hope you will have the courage and the strength to continue to do the amazing work that many of you are already engaged in. Thank you so much.
Greetings to the coastal communities and fisher folk who have gathered for the Fisher People Tribunal in South Africa. Yours is such an important struggle because it touches both the land and the sea. In your hands is the care of these richest ecosystems of the planet. And as long as you handle it, the fish didn't disappear, the sea didn't get polluted, the land didn't get eroded. First, the industry and corporations overfished the oceans. And once they had depleted the oceans, they came on the land with industrial aquaculture. We had big struggles on industrial farming, and our Supreme Court even ruled that it was illegal. I've called it the Blue Revolution, like the Green Revolution, only for extraction, profits, external inputs. And now, the rich are eyeing the diversity you have protected, the ecosystems you have protected, these slogans of financializing nature, of 30% for nature, is basically an attempt to take away from those who have protected the earth and her biodiversity in the name of protecting nature. Conservation of a false kind becomes the next excuse for displacement of communities. So your struggle becomes a struggle for the earth and for your lives. In any case, there has never been a separation between humans and nature. The greedy, the capitalists created these divides, and divide and rule has always been the extraction. And you were divided and ruled in South Africa by a word that should never have existed: apartheid, separateness. It has creeped into every part of the world. You got rid of it in South Africa. But everywhere, wars are being fought to take away the resources of the people and displace them. In the struggle, you are leaders. I join you in solidarity. I wish you the best.
I want to thank Herman Kumara, Nadim Nembar, Kumi Naidu, and Vandana Shiva for their messages. I think that, as they were speaking and we were listening to them, I think that the element of connecting our struggles here in South Africa to the global struggles that we face when it comes to ocean grabbing, to financialization of nature, to the economic system that we live in that is about the few at the top and leaving the many at the bottom behind the capitalist system that we experience. It's important that we connect those struggles globally, and I would be failing if I wasn't to mention and to express solidarity to the fishers people and the people of Palestine and of DRC and Sudan who are facing so much hardship at the moment and indeed a genocide. So let's hold them in our thoughts in solidarity as we go through this week in the tribunal. So yes, I think it's now time to say we have a lot to cover in the next days, and we will do so starting from this afternoon. I think it's important again to really highlight that this process it's so much or as much about the legal frameworks that we're working with, as much as the organizing, the mobilizing, the strength of the fishers movement. And so we are looking forward to hear from the fishers and to take this process forward in the next 3 days. I hope you are all excited as I am. And with that, I'll close our opening session for the tribunal.